Hello everybody, my name is Eli and welcome to a video essay. Today we're theorizing about the DeltaTale shared universe. It's technically hypothesizing, but theory is the generally accepted fandom space term for ideas that could be true, plus it's much snappier, saving my time and yours. Omega Flowey spoilers for both Undertale and Deltarune, Natch, so grab a snack, hydrate, sit down, and shut up, because we're in for a ride. DeltaTract is my name for the idea that Undertale is a game within the world of Deltarune. Walk with me as I paint you a picture with words. It's one day, Asriel Dreamer and December Holiday, along with Kenny Kattenheimer and any number of their same age peer friends, are gathered in the shelter below hometown. For you see, Rudolph Holiday is sick. Des, being the mayor's daughter, and Asriel, the son of then police chief Asgore, have the codes to this place. And it's enough of an emergency if Rudy dies that they feel fully justified in using this emergency shelter. Asriel, being hella religious, Jason knowing the texts, works with Caddy to try and summon the angel to save the Brandier patriarch. But it doesn't work. Or rather, it does, but it works a little too well. You see, little Chris had either already been involved with this little occult summoning, or more likely, they just were curious about what Big Bro was doing with everybody. So, they had followed everyone down, and the angel, upon being summoned, needed a vessel. The resulting explosion targeted the nearest boss monster, Asriel. Except that Chris knocks him out of the way, causing the little kid to be inhabited instead. Almost everybody scatters, leaving Asriel to either take Chris home himself or Asgore to find them all in the shelter and be like, something to the effect of, "What are you kids doing here?" "Oh, we were just playing, Dad. Uh, this isn't a safe place to be, kiddos." And then he takes Chris and Asriel home. Asriel, stuck with a younger sibling possessed by an angel, decides to check his dad's old notes from the war with humans. Therein, he learns about the differences in monster and human souls and begins working on the first of what we would come to call dark fountains. It was built like an ARG or TTRPG, using magic that hadn't been touched in years to animate objects in hopes of finding another worthy contender to lure out the angel, because having your little sibling possessed by a power from beyond the known space, it do kind of kind of be sucking. Unfortunately, there was no dice, pun intended, towards the Pippins. And in the process of however long this took, Des succumbed to something, turning into the Roaring Knight. Eat. Knowing this was a clusterduck of massive proportions, Asriel moves his idea to his computer, a digital space. He already had a physical cage in Chris and his room in which they were keeping the soul, but that only worked for a little bit at a time because Chris kind of moved like a zombie whenever not ensouled. Furthermore, or, computers have more data than random beloved items, and if Asriel had met Queen, he would also know that computers could kind of be alive and thus provide a lot of valuable space to try and hold such thing as a soul. But after a hell of a lot of coding, that mad lad goat boy does it. A game world similar to their own, with greater stakes, familiar faces, and certain tweaks. A story to trap the angel. Undertale. Oh. But it was a fantasy world. Anyway, so Asriel lifted themes. Bratty and Caddy, the girls who didn't like each other at the top of their lungs, but very clearly just needed to get together, he thought, got together in his version of things. Alphys, the teacher who liked his dad, but also liked Undine, got with Undine because he didn't want to see his dad with anyone. Because what happens if it's his game anyway. It's a fantasy piece meant to keep an angel in place. So let's just wipe the board of anyone having the ability to put moves on his divorced parents. Also, the parallel of a nerdy monster and a jock monster was something he dearly missed between himself and Des, who'd kind of, as aforementioned, become the Roaring Knight. Furthermore, the man who was winning Toriel's heart, Sans, was literally put on the other side of a door from her so that he could make her smile but wouldn't intrude upon or change their family dynamic. The ghost who called himself a nobody accidentally left their digital drawing of an ideal body on a public computer. So Asriel modeled it and built out a fun personality based on running into Spamton and Tenna. Some of the darkness he'd encountered on his deer quest. Sansa's little brother who never comes out. Oh, well, what if he's a bigger brother? Younger but big, and just a fun guy. basically a take write what you know mixed with making a fun OC. Plus, similar to Sans, and just as funny, but not not an absolute. It's just larger than Sans, larger than life, somewhat literally, than just as silly. And finally, he made himself the son of the Flower King, combining his wish that if anyone had had to be inhabited, it should have been him, combining that with the Asgore's love of flowers, so much so that he sees them as his children as well. Altogether, this added up to a certain Flowey. Kara as a concept was designed to show whatever the hell was inside Chris, whether or not it be the angel, that hurting people could break Chris. The barrier? A metaphor for souls in control. Pacifism Pacifism versus genocide. Half test, half plea that the player inside Chris's heart wouldn't kill their people. Transferring the little rat took effort, but Chris was freed. They could enjoy playing with Noelle, pretending to rip out their heart and chasing her with it. But they always carried a knife, just to be sure they could create a dark world to distract the thing in their chest. Finally, as you thought it was all over, Chris was stable with the soul vibing inside his computer. He could try and save Des later with collegiate level knowledge, with her being stuck inside dark worlds as far as he knew, and the only one he left running was in an old unused classroom that nobody went into anyway, so she wouldn't get hurt, they wouldn't get hurt, nobody would encounter her, he can solve the problem later. Except you finished Undertale. We all finished Undertale and want more. So, Toby Fox released the sequel, air quotes on sequel, that he came up with first, the same way that Asriel went to the notion of making items alive first. And now we're here. The reason the soul will do a weird route is not because it's Asriel, it's not because it's Des. It's because it contains the multitudes of a genocide route, a pacifist route, Oh, and every neutral route in between. Oh, there's only one ending in real life, though, which is why Deltarune opens with a character customization that then gets thrown out. Because you don't get to choose. You're an Asriel's sibling, and he wanted to hammer that home. The opening to Deltarune is the end of Undertale. Alternatively, if we must bring Gaster into this, Mr. Complicating Factor that he is, he helped Asriel make Undertale and is what led us out into Deltarune. Why? I don't know. He's spooky. Smarter people than me can work it out. Or at least that's how I had originally scripted the end of this until I came up with another idea. Consider how Gaster is described as being shattered across time and space. He has followers, and he's the man who talks in hands. If he is what created the soul that we, the players, inhabit and possibly just directly are, or if he created the being from another world to inhabit Chris's soul, rather, then if we are the angel, what makes angels? God. And given the similarities to Christianity in the local monster hometown church, I would go so far as to say, what if, and hear me out, look at the Old Testament. Mene Mene Tekel Aparshin is written on a wall by a giant hand in the Old Testament. A man, Gaster, God, who speaks in hands. He made the angel, he speaks in hands, and in the lore of Undertale, he made the core. What if he literally made the OS that Asriel relied upon to make Undertale? Because if he's just a high schooler, that's a lot of coding. But if you think the angel you prayed to has been summoned and it's controlling your little sibling, you need to find a something else, something greater. So you pray. You pray like hell, pun intended. And you get the one thing that is beyond even an angel, Joel, in terms of power on the level you need. But you don't just find God. You find the thing that made the thing that's inside your sibling. You get saddled with W.D. Gaster. You know, the mysterious guy who's kind of a giant pain in for lore people. And if he's a pain for lore theorists and compilers, how much more of a pain is he for anybody who's actually in the same universe to deal with? End of line.